Hello, and welcome to the Stacking Dinger Show, your home for all things MLB best ball. Specifically today, again, talking about Underdog. Part of the country is on fire, the other part is frozen, but we can take small comfort in knowing that we can spend our hard earned dollars on these underdog tournaments, trying to predict what's going to happen months from now in a game that we have no control over of baseball. So we have tonight, Billy is here and joining us. Sorry to skip over, we're happy that Billy's here. Billy continues to be an awesome contributor here, but tonight we're hitting the deep archives. Maybe not so deep, but classic returning guest Nez is here. Kind of called in to fill in at the last minute. We are so glad you're here. What's up,
guys? It's great to be back. It's always great to be talking baseball. We all know this is the purest game that exists. This is the best game that exists. And you guys, I gave you guys a shout. Made sure that people weren't sleeping on the content you guys have been pumping out because you guys have been going hard. And I think it's only right that I come back and help contribute a little bit because you guys are crushing it right now. And man, we got a lot to talk about. You know, these early drafts. A lot changes very rapidly, so we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, our goal tonight is to run through the new contest that just opened on Underdog. We'll kind of talk about the structure and some details, and then after that, we're going to talk about some player changes between the player pools of the bullpen contest and these, as well as maybe a little discussion on how to think about drafting now this early in the season on this, on these contests that might be open for a while, and things are going to news and everything's going to change by the time spring trainings, even the first day of spring training, things will change. So that's our goal for tonight. And let's just hop over to something before we get really deep into that. The other thing I do want to run through is which the nice thing is the last couple of days as things have been opened up, there's been people popping up and saying, hey guys, or I've never done baseball best ball before. What's the bullet points of that? Most of these people are familiar with football best ball at the very least. So I will say that, and I'll try to remember to add a link here in a little pop-up window to last year. Nez and I did a MLB Best Ball 101 show that's pretty still relevant to everything that's happening again this year. But just the shortened version of that, if you had to do it in 5 bullet points, describe MLB best ball. Billy, what's bullet point number 1 for you?
Roster construction, and I think there's like 2 ways to think about it: how you start a draft, and then the ultimate number you're going to get to. And we have 3 different categories of positions: infield, outfield, and pitcher. And you typically want to stay between 6 to 8 in each one of those, being relatively balanced, and just kind of staying on that basic parameters. And then also on the topic of roster construction, starting out, you really don't want to overinvest in pitching. We've learned over the years that they just don't separate like when a hitter has that legendary or awesome season. So that we've learned that from a roster construction perspective, you don't want 3 or 4 early pitchers. You kind of want to wait on that.
Okay, so I think the other bullet point, other than roster construction, which you kind of highlighted there, the 6 to 8 players at each position, Nez, the week 17 bros want to know about the playoffs. How does baseball compare to, say, football in terms of the beginning structure as then the playoff structure?
Yeah, so it's very similar, right? We weren't 100% sure that we were going to have this playoff structure that we had in years past. We are maintaining that round 1, round 2, 3 finals structure. So there is merit to stacking week 17, i.e. the finals for best ball in MLB as well. We have our, we know where the positive hitting environments are based on historical data and common sense sometimes. So that definitely has merit. So that once we will be doing a deep dive. You guys will at least on the schedule, and we will be able to identify ways to attack the finals, and maybe not gear our entire lineup towards finals, but at least tie break these things, such as games played, that everybody plays the same amount of games, and who is playing in the best environments versus the worst environments.
Yeah. So the other thing I will say about the playoffs is and a thing we'll hear talked about a lot without a lot of predictive ability, but the 2-week periods in the playoffs, you can get some really nasty pitcher scores by getting 2 starts in a week. So that's a lot of what we talk about when it comes to pitching and figuring out how many pitchers you want on your roster as you're trying to balance the being able to luck into those 2 start weeks in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think that's something that's like super noteworthy is the playoffs they're 2 weeks of individual weeks, so you can get this like funky situation where you have like a bunch of 2-start pitchers on your roster because you have more live pitchers and you have this major competitive advantage on your peers. And this is data from last year too, but pitchers really got hurt a lot in the past, and so like having more on your roster is sometimes helpful.
Yeah. I think the other last bullet point is outfielders specifically compared to infielders when you're looking at hitters. So if you take a look at any sort of season-long projections for hitters, and then you compare them to Underdog ADP, you're going to see that pretty much at any point where you're comparing an outfielder to an infielder, except for maybe the first round, and even then, not so much, you're going to see a lot more potential point projection at that ADP for the infielder compared to the outfielder. And why is that, Nez?
Well, hitters score more. That's just the way it works. And Ross, when you look at these stats, convert them to underdog points, hitters score more. There's very few pitchers that can match the highest scoring batters. I mean, none really can. They just score more in raw points. So that coupled with the fact that Billy Jones said, the injuries, it's hard to maximize pitching like you can with batting.
I will say that you're pretty rusty talking baseball because I asked you about infielders compared to outfielders.
I didn't want to talk about pitching.
Did I say pitcher?
I'm sorry, man. I think you're talking pitching. I'm looking at the dinger structure. All I heard was pitching. Sorry. Let me. Apologies. I'm fully sober too. I have no beer here because if I drink a beer, my pregnant wife will smell it from across the house. Outfield versus infielder.
Yes, there you go.
There are way more infielders than outfielders. Almost twice as many because you have 2 extra infielders on every team than an outfield. How did I do that?
There you go. Perfect. That was the answer I was needing.
Professor Sheep. Professor Sheep caught me texting in class, and I was actually fully coherent.
But what you said was also true about pitchers compared to hitters. So you gave the right answer to a different question.
Jesus H.
All right. So yeah, if that wasn't enough for you to get started, go check out that other episode, and we'll break that down a little slower and a little more in depth, and also do some small talking about stacking and stuff. Which teaser, Chris should have the stacking data run for next week's show. So we did a show last year. Chris and Tuma was on that one, and we went through the 2023 data on how stacking helped you. So now we'll have another year's worth of data to check out on that. So be sure to check out that episode, because once you get past the the basic roster size constructions, I think everybody's next question is stacking. How much should I stack a team, and or should I at all? So that'll help you answer that question. But we're not there yet tonight. Tonight we are going to jump through these contests. All right, so the flagship, the Dinger. Last year it was a $750,000 prize pool. This year, the Underdog gods and goddesses have blessed us with $1 million prize pool, and I think the most interesting thing when you're talking prize pool here is that with the addition of the money, the 100,000 to first did not change. So all of that added money from the prize pool is getting distributed down to other qualifiers. So I think, Nez, I mean, you're much more tapped into the football market. That's kind of what we saw them do in the best ball mania too, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I prefer it this way. I like this structure quite a bit. I rarely have gripes with prize structures because they give you so many variety as far as contests that you can play. This is pretty nice and very standard as well. So you have a pretty nice shot at like earning some nice money in here if you make the finals. At worst, like a really nice shot at earning back the money that it took to max the contest if you are going to max.
Yeah. Have you, anything else I don't know how much you've looked at it, Billy, at the the distribution of the prizes.
Yeah, it's very, very flat. I think the one thing I look at is how much do you get when you final. And Best Ball Mania, they did make an effort to, you got all your whole entry fee back when you made that final. For this one, you don't get that, but you get that back in making it much easier to advance to the final. But I think you got a realistic chance at winning some good money with this structure. So it's really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So the advancement structure you see here, 2 out of your first pod will advance, and then 2 in the first round of the playoffs. 1 out of 10. This is going to be the place where I think a lot of people are going to come away disappointed. But then if you do make that 310 person final, which is not too big, you'll get $500 back.
Yeah. So where they really added more money to this is like the top 5. Last year, it was a much steeper drop off because it was 100K to first last year, but obviously $250,000 less in the prize pool. So it's nice that you get a podium finish, like no complaints at all there.
And the other thing, I was worried that the entry would go up with the increased prize pool, but we are still at this $10 entry point, which I think is low enough for somebody that wants to. I mean, we'll get to other recommendations if you have you're an entry level player, but if you want to do some of those other $3 contests we'll talk about, you can still set aside 2-3 drafts, and you feel like you can compete in the Dinger, and also it's not terrible for people that want to max to put away a bunch.
Yeah, it's a very accessible price point. It's also, if you're someone who likes to plan out how much you're going to spend, Okay, it's easy round number to divide by too.
Yes. Yes.
So I want to put $500 in. That equals this amount of drafts. Simple math. So I think that's always nice.
Yeah, I think $10 is perfect. Honestly, it's enough to make it mean something, enough to be accessible for other people. I think this is a really nice price point. I'm really excited, man. $1 million dinger. I mean, I wasn't sure we would ever see the day.
Yeah, I posted it. The first stinger had a $50,000 total prize pool back in 2021.
Yep.
So
only 18 rounds back then too.
I kind of like that logo. Just a side point.
It was a cool logo, wasn't it? It was very baseball, just like a block logo.
Yeah, it looked like it was like a Hall of Fame plaque or something.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
But yeah, this is where this will be most of the discussion that we'll have from now until spring will be focused on this contest, and a lot of what we'll be talking about is going to be what we're thinking about when we're thinking about entering this contest. But
that's a great point. That this will be the focus. Each one of these contests, you can slightly tweak your strategy according to the contest, but you follow these same general principles. They apply to all of it.
Yeah. Yep. But the maybe my favorite thing that they do is not that I actually don't usually do many of these drafts, but this bunt contest, which is a 20 entry max, it's $2K to first, $3 entry. I think these are the gateway drug to MLB best ball.
Yep.
Like there's so many people that I talk to online that are like, yeah, last year I did the bunt and I had a really good advance rate. Now I think I'm gonna max the dinger, or maybe not that, but maybe they don't go that level, but you'll get hooked. So these,
that story of I made the bunt final, so therefore I will make the dinger final. The math is slightly different, and I think that's why it's a ton of fun, because your expectation is more reasonably to make that final and have a sweat. So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking to kind of play the whole season and be a part of the fun in the last week, then just kind of bunting your way there might be a play. If you want to take a big prize, you got to kind of look at the other tournaments.
Sure, but the thing also with these that you'll see this is already 13.5% full. Don't worry, because they will roll these out as they fill. So there'll be I don't know how many bunts we got to last year. If it was 3, maybe.
I want to say 3, yeah.
But yeah, so if you're not wanting to jump in yet, and you want more information or news sort of thing till you feel comfortable drafting baseball, don't be, and you want to get this entry level contest, don't be worried. They'll be open again.
Oh yeah.
So I'm wondering, do either of you guys use these as like experimental drafts, like for when you're trying to see what something might be like as you're drafting? Do you ever go in here and just throw something weird at the wall?
I've done it. Yeah. A lot of times too, like I'll play around with maybe like some auto draft techniques just to see how things can like play out if I try a certain positional limit and a certain ranking set. I'll do that. Last year too, I used it as a way to get like 100% Paul Skeens in a contest too. So I didn't win I didn't win the bunt, so it didn't matter. But just like fun things like that, right? Just like just being done with my money and helping fill lobbies.
Yeah.
So I don't do that, but I think it's an interesting point, because a fair amount of people do. They try things in this space, and if you are just drafting good quality teams, I think you can just print EV in this space where other people will be looking to maybe try something else, and if it lose $3, what about it? Like that's kind of some people's mentality in that space. So it is an accessible tournament. It's not, and it may not be the sharpest draft rooms that you'll walk into.
Yeah, and if you look at the advanced structure, it is much easier to advance. So that's 3 out of 12 in the first round compared to 2 out of 12, and then 3 out of 10 compared to 2 out of 10, and then 2 out of 9 compared to the 1 out of 10. So yeah, if you want to try and maybe maximize the playoff sweat, and you don't care about the top prize, that's another reason to look at these. All right, and then the high dollar one right now is the Frozen Rope, which is a $50 entry. This has a top prize of 40,000. And let's see. So the final is a 30-person final. You make it to there, you get $300 back. But the min cash is actually, is it min cash? Does it pay out the first round?
Let me actually look
so.
there.
2 out of 12. Yeah. Yeah. So if you make the past first round, you do double up, which is not common in the modern underdog playoff structure. A lot of contests are pulling back on the min caches in order to put money into the finals and stuff. So I think this is an interesting contest. Similar advance to the Dinger, 2 out of 12, 210, but then 210 the semifinals. Last year we had the $100 perfect game. It sounds like we might have that again. We're not, but right now this is here. I don't know. What do you guys think about this contest? Did anything stand out to you on this one?
30-person finals, pretty cool. That's is 30, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a very reasonable final for a 212, 210, 210 structure. I mean, that's very feasible. I like the mid stakes price point there. I think that's a very, very fun contest that they've decided to add as the space grows and the need for that type of contest grows. This is awesome, man. This is definitely one that I'm going to be putting quite a few entries into.
Yeah, this is really interesting to have that few entrants, but also have that big of a top prize. That's like, okay, so I don't feel like I'm also going to get like massively like just varianced out of this. I don't know. I feel like I can walk into that final and have a good realistic chance at that versus, I mean, it's 10 times less than the Dinger final, 300 versus 30. So that's just really appealing. If you tack on the Dinger plus this, you're talking $2,500. That's not that much if you compare those two together, depending on your budget.
Right. Yeah. I think I will also be in here. I did start on the slow, as you can see here. I have 19 left. So, and this might actually be a contest I do more slows, but I can take maybe more time with picks. Maybe I'll do Dinger slows. I don't know. Because I do always like to have some slows going, just get that dopamine hit at work when you're like, oh, I'm on the clock, I get to make a pick. I could ignore my responsibility for it.
It's necessary.
All right. And then maybe the most interesting contest is a $75 single entry, the solo shot. So this is a top prize of $10,000 to first. And yeah, so this is kind of what I was talking about. The min cash is even less than the entry, which seems to be more and more common on these underdog contest structures, which, we're not really here to debate that, but I think generally people that play a lot prefer the money to be up towards the top. But maybe some people that play less kind of like that min cash just as a safety blanket. Oh, did you have something?
No, I mean, I like the solo shot. This one always takes a while to fill for liquidity's sake. So, people like to wait till closer to the season to get this filled. This is definitely more of a top heavy contest, right? Where 20% of the money goes to first, which I think is good for I think it's nice that there's variety. Like we said, like the dinger, is a huge contest, but it is a flat payout structure. This is more for the people, if you're chasing first place here. I think it makes sense for them to have the different types of first places. So this is a fun one too, man. Like I always love the solo shot, and a friendly advanced structure as well. 4-12, 3-12, 3-10, very friendly to get to the finals.
Yeah, somebody asked me, when they thought they should draft their single entry, and I think to me there's two things that make sense. Both of them on the extreme ends. Either you want to do it now if you think you can get ahead of ADP on guys, or you want to do it close to the season when you have the most news. And I don't know if that's, like you said, it's kind of hard to fill one now.
Yeah,
because I think most people wait. It's funny because last year I waited and then I was like, well, we'll see what happened. I think I ended up with Roto Run John in my just randomly. So if you are waiting, it's not like you're going to avoid the people you're trying to avoid either. So
yeah.
You waited and tried to avoid the sharps, and you got all the sharps trying to avoid the sharps. But it is, you can see here the 6 entrants. They haven't even kicked off a draft yet for the solo shot.
no.
And if you're going to try to draft now, watch it, because you could very easily have it sit there. You've entered, and then all of a sudden you've walked away, and then you come back and it's filled, and you're in the 5th round and you've taken 3 pitchers. Oh my goodness. So like I don't know. I just would be kind of cautious if you're going to enter it. You do only have one bullet there, and they take kind of forever to fill. So
Good point.
Be ready to kind of like pull it if you're not going to do that draft.
Oh yeah.
And we have heard from Numi that there will be an eliminator contest showing up here relatively soon too. I know people were asking about that, but no weekly winners style contest for baseball, which is perfectly fine with me. I've never really gotten down with the weekly winner contests. But
real quick, if there was weekly winners, would that not just be like a bunch of people just like stacking the shit out of like respective teams?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that would be I think it would be kind of a silly venture personally. I know people were like really bummed about that, but like, I don't know, man. I'm with you, Sheep. Like, I'm good without it. Like, we really can't be too choosy here in the baseball streets.
The one I wanted to see was the marathon. I had a team that was a heater of a regular season team last year.
You and Woo Woo, right? Or
yeah, and I advanced and I lost in the 1st round. So
that would be cool. That would be cool.
I can understand it from a baseball perspective, because baseball is such an accumulative sport that a season-long contest could work quite well, but doesn't seem like it's on the plate.
Yeah, I will to jump back to the eliminator and say I have really enjoyed football and baseball, sweating the eliminator each week. So I'm not sure what kind of price point that's going to end up at this year, but definitely want to get back in that because it's pretty simple. It's just easy to it's something to look at each week after you draft all these teams, and then the best thing probably to do is never look at your dinger teams till it's advanced time, because it's a long first part of the season. But with the eliminators, you can feel like you're doing something when you're refreshing every day.
Those are fun.
All right. So the other thing we want to highlight with all of these contests is how the schedule shakes out. So we talked about the really long round one, and so it's a little bit extended in the first week just due to how the schedules go. This is starting after their games. What are the dates?
This doesn't include like the
So March 18th and March 19th are the Dodger Cubs games in Tokyo. So it does not include those two games. That's how it was last year that when they played in Korea. So which is nice. It gives us more time to draft. Otherwise, we're cutting off because that happens like in the middle with a couple of weeks of spring training still left when they play those games. So that is the thing one to note about this is you're technically going to lose a couple of Dodgers and Cubs games overall off their schedule for this first round. But then you have this kind of longer week one. But after that, each week is its own scoring period. Up until we get to the All-Star game time. The All-Star game is on July 15th this year. So you will see, 7 is round one, each week, but then you get to this last week. So this is a full week, a week 15. They'll play up until the 13th on this week. That's Sunday, and then I think that's how it goes. There might be one game cut off. I forget. But then you'll see this week 16, which is still in round one, is another extended week. They don't play games for a few days after the All-Star break or after the All-Star game. So it's not like week 16. If you look at the dates here, it shows you that it's 14 days, but worth of games. But I forget the exact number, but it's more like 10 days worth of games. So you will be confused when it comes to that week. You'll have to look at the schedule again and see how that scores. And then there is one more full week after the All-Star game before the playoffs start. So why am I highlighting this? I think the All-Star game gets used as it's talked about as a midpoint, even though it's not the exact midpoint of the actual baseball season. But if you're digesting any sort of news around injury or you're thinking about how long this actual first round is and how the scoring is going to accumulate over that period, it's a really good reference point to think about the All-Star game being that kind of All-Star game plus 1 week is round one. And then as you pointed out, Billy, the playoffs, 2 separate 1 week period scoring periods. So 8-4 through 8-10, your guys will accumulate, and then they'll so you'll have your score from them, but then you'll get a score from your best scorers in week 19 added to week 18, which if you're used to 1 game NFL playoffs, it's a much different structure. Yeah.
So is one of the takeaways that for me to set a reminder on my phone, like when the All-Star game happens, to start to think about my dinger teams again and like set them aside for a while, and then that's the point where I start to get nervous?
If you have more willpower than me, sure. I would not be able to do that.
Yeah, no, I sweat these like every week.
Every day.
Was
I'm
up, one
updating
was
every day, to
down.
be honest.
Oh yeah.
All right. So let us go to the player pool. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And two quick notes. If you were drafting the bullpen, two player notes as far as positions. Jazz Chisholm was an outfielder in the bullpen contest, is now an infielder. So he has an ADP of 35. So Billy, what is your takeaway from this outfielder to infielder change for Jazz?
We stated earlier, Nez did so succinctly, that there's less outfielders than there are infielders. So he needs to go down. He's where he ended in the bullpen. When you translate it over and losing the position, he's ranked too high. He's still a good player. I don't think you completely tank him. He matches kind of the profile that we like in this. He's really buzzy and can have bad weeks, but also really can go nuclear. So, but yeah, that number's got to drop.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to drop big time. His value that value of ADP 35 is because he had outfield eligibility on the New York Yankees. This is going to drop pretty significantly. I would probably imagine that he drops probably around O'Neal Cruz. Would be my guess.
Okay, yeah. So he's at O'Neal Cruz is 65. That seems about right. I think there will be some people that won't make the adjustment and they'll think they're getting value as he drops. But I think for the most part, people will let him drop now.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. There's some anchoring bias to just seeing that player there. Auto drafters are going to end up taking him. It's going to take some time. So
Yeah,
if you want to get Jazz Chisholm in the best ball in your best ball portfolio, you should wait a little bit. If you really want that guy, you should wait.
Especially because Judge. A lot of people are going to take Judge. If they're a stacking person, they're going to just take Jazz, and that'll also hold him up there a little bit.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting point, that he may get stuck at the Judge turn, and it will be hard to get past that because of ADP anchoring. Plus, you're going to want to stack them, and it just will kind of line up. So I could see that happening.
Yeah, because there's 2 picks there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. The less important guy whose name I cannot spell, Sedane or say apparently. I don't know how to say his first name now that I'm saying it out loud, but Rafaela went from a infielder to an outfielder. This coming on news that I guess maybe we should also say Jazz went from an outfielder to an infielder because he's going to be playing infield for the Yankees. If you don't know, these positionalities do not change, like in a roto world. As players play at different positions, they gain different eligibilities. That's not how Underdog works. You're locked in. So the attempt was made here that the position that people are going to be playing for the most of the year, that's why they got changed to match where they'll likely be playing this year. And Rafaela is, as the news 12 days ago says, will primarily be a center fielder instead of second or short, which also was stuff he played last year. And I looked last year, he was about 50-50 between the outfield and the infield. So when it comes to a guy, I guess he's already at 167. But when it comes to late outfielders, does this change put you on him at all? Either of you guys?
I think 167 is really rich. I think he's going to play a lot, right? The fact that he is a utility guy, they'll find ways to keep on the field. I don't see enough. I mean, pretty nice minor league profile, but in his in the sample that we have so far of him as a major league hitter, I don't think he's the type of guy that I'll be taking very much.
Yeah, I completely agree. This doesn't change the fact that he's a late round pick, infield or outfield.
Yep. I don't. If I was getting him last pick, I think I might think about it. But there's some tasty. I mean, they're infielders, but if you're making a Boston stack, like there's a lot tastier additions to the late Boston guys, and maybe we don't get as much Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell as we want this year. But when it comes to comparing those two guys to, I guess Roman Anthony is an outfielder, so take everything partially what I said away. But those two guys are a lot more exciting in their upside potential, and grabbing them late could be really valuable.
Absolutely.
All right. So the other thing we wanted to highlight is, I did assist a newbie in crowdsourcing some players to get added to the pool. This is something that we've seen in the past. Some minor leaguers, potential fringe guys that are going to contribute sometimes have been in the past got left off the pool. So I put a call out there in the wild, and we have a much more robust player pool this year in these contests. So thank you to everybody who contributed to that, and thanks to Numi for, I know he had to do some work to manually add all those guys, so you can draft your fringe prospects. And I'll just say that we probably missed some too. So somebody out there is going to be like, why can't I draft so and so? But we did help try to make people a little bit happier. But
yeah, he added like a ton of names, and there's a couple I wanted to highlight just for kind of the laughs. Can you go to do not use?
Sure.
Nez, have you ever seen this before?
I have.
As someone who's a less experienced drafter, I've never seen this before, and it would make me so happy for a finals team to carry a do not use roster spot.
Like carrying like a, for the Pokemon heads, like a missing number, like catching that and putting that in your starting Pokemon lineup or whatever.
Yeah, but that you could duplicate your items with missing no.
Oh yeah, you can. Maybe this one duplicates your points. That's why you don't want. I'm kidding.
Yes.
Sorry.
So,
yeah.
This is the golden at bat rule or whatever.
Yeah.
This guy is whoever in your lineup you want to hit again. Yeah, there you go. I did warn you though, Billy, that last time you mentioned the golden at bat rule, that was your last show.
Yeah.
Which Nez, I don't know, you watched that episode, but there is a strict no discussion about the golden bat rule on this show.
Oh my god,
we don't acknowledge its existence or any conversation about it.
I can't make fun of it.
No,
it solely exists for people to talk bad about it. That's the only reason that ever came into the news cycle.
We're not feeding Rod Manfred's trolling. We're not doing it. Also, do not use, which I think
you will get no points.
He will not get points.
This used to be a duplicate player, but thankfully they just removed the duplicate player's name, so there's no confusion whatsoever. Like you just.
Yes. And then speaking of duplicate players, can you go to Luis Garcia?
Yeah. Today you were talking about trying to do some.
I was like data integrity type of work. It's just the IDs and kind of getting them transferred. And so I was just looking into it, and I was like, how can I map these across? And I was like, I'll do name and concatenated with the position. And there is literally 2 pitchers and 2 hitters, 2 infielders.
So
incredible.
I think there's only one that you might even closely remotely want to think about drafting. I think I may have drafted him once in a Washington stack, and that's Luis Garcia, the Nationals infielder. But even then, he is I'm bored of drafting the same 20th round guy. Let me get somebody weird sort of guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. These aren't people that you're typically in a draft, but I thought that was kind of funny.
The guy you do want to draft, and the guy that I can't, again, a name I can't spell, and this was the guy who was the most requested when I put out the call for names that were missing from the pool, which not sure what happened. He did, as you can see, he got 124-ish innings last year, 127 strikeouts. Spencer Schwellenbach. I guess that shows you how white I am, because I feel totally comfortable saying that last name and not how to pronounce it in a Rafaela. So apologies out there for everyone on how white I am.
Apology accepted, sheep.
But yeah, this is a guy who went from no ADP to 160 in the first shift. It was sort of everybody in the first day of drafting was sort of playing chicken to see how late they could go with him. Had a really nice debut. The thing, if you look at him in projections, the projections do have his strikeouts a little bit lower than what he put up in that first season. And the ERA type indicators are just like slightly higher. I don't think there's like, it's not like he was a full ERA off from projections, but I don't know. Either of you guys really thinking about going heavy on Spencer?
I'll definitely draft him. It's just a matter of how much he's going to rise, because like he just has that effect of, I couldn't take this guy, now I can. Let me let me chase him up the board type of deal. So I'm hoping that he doesn't rise too far, but I'm definitely looking to take him in these drafts. I mean, he looks to be just a shoe in for this Braves rotation. I mean, they've got Grant Holmes and Ian Anderson behind him. So I think Schwellenbach's going to get his.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess when you're looking at names here, where do you think you'd want to slide him in?
That's a fair question. I don't know exactly where I would put the resistance point, but I think seeing Tanner Bybee's name, that would probably be around the time when I might go ahead and go down to Schwellenbach. But there's a lot of undervalued pitchers. I just maybe this 130 range, I think, is probably where the resistance gets met.
Yeah, I did start thinking about it today, and that is where I put him in here about with Kodai Senga in my rankings when I was eyeballing it. There's some, I mean, you're making the decision throughout. The whole point is, do I want strikeouts or innings? A lot of times as you're going through these pitching tiers.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, he should be in line for a bunch of innings. And if he can match the K rate and not come down to what projections are saying, I think he could be a really nice contributor.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
I completely agree. The thing that I need to look more into is, I'm looking at his fan graphs right now. Like last year was a pretty big spike in innings for him. He had never put up a ton of innings in the past. So I'm just wondering about how inflated is that balloon. But I don't know. I need to do more research.
Yeah. So instead of talking about his numbers, I should have just pulled them up here. But yeah, he got that 123 innings. But that's just that in the MLB, right? Or is that total? No, yeah. So he had, if you put it together, he had a total of 170.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ignore me.
So he's actually relatively high for a rookie pitcher. But like you said, he had not really. I guess 2023 he had over 120. So I'm not too sure about his history if he came from college. He's 24, so maybe not. But yeah, they're projecting him 173 innings. And like I was saying, the projections have him still sub 4 ERA. His indicators, his xERA, xFIP, don't show that he was getting super lucky. He did run a kind of a low BABIP, but like there's no like red flags here. Yeah, if you see, here's what I was talking about. And strikeout rate is they're slightly lower on the strikeout rate, but yeah, he's definitely a guy to work into your drafts. All right, so what other names that got added are you interested in, Billy, talking about?
Honestly, I mean, there are names. They are like, okay, so like Connor Norby's one that has an ADP right now. Interesting young player. But I don't know. I think Felix Schwellenbach was like the big name everyone was waiting for. So yeah.
Yeah. So we have guys like Norby, Tomoyuki Sugano, who has the potential to pitch at a fairly decent clip at Orioles. He a big, but he's coming over from Japan at a later age. I think this is not his first time trying to come over, so he's not even at that age where they come over at the earliest spot. He's coming over even at a later age. He's come off like his best season in Japan, but he is not a. He's a pitcher's pitcher. He's not a. He's a finesse over stuff and power sort of pitcher.
The 36-year-old making his major league debut doesn't have nasty stuff. Good to know. I'll write that down.
So yes.
So what you're saying, he likely doesn't translate to this format very well.
Like, very good, pretty good point, man. I mean, like that was my takeaway. Right, I saw the age. Like, okay, I probably don't want a whole lot to do with this guy, but innings eaters do have their place. Let's be real. But I'm definitely chasing ceiling.
Right, but even if you're chasing an old innings eater, you don't want to go to the guy who's used to pitching on 5 days rest like they are in Japan.
Once a week.
So yeah, it's pretty tough. I'm sure I'll click on him a few times, just the what if, and at some point the boredom factor, but it's pretty tough to see him being a big contributor in this format. Let's see, another name that is got an ADP, David Festa.
Yeah.
Our guy Thomas, when he was on here, DJ Stats, he did call out David Festa as a potential breakout, and I'll take him based on that.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the numbers for Festa, and he's like all he's ever done is just strike people out. Had a sort of a rough debut for the Twins, just like by pure results, just by looking at ERA. Underlying stuff tells you that he's likely gonna be fine. Just strikeouts up and down the board for this guy. So the fact that he's going so late right now, ADP 238, I think is a fun mix in. But with the Twins, I mean, you just never really know. They just always seems to have like a next man up. So I wouldn't be banking on a ton of innings on Festa. Really, what you're hoping for is that this guy's available in the playoffs, giving you high upside starts. But he's super intriguing for sure. He has a chance to be a big riser if things break his way in spring training.
Yeah, you see they have him projected for 16 starts in the big leagues, not the amount we want. And, actually similar projected K rate to slightly over to Schwellenbach, though. So if you're comparing those two guys, but still a nice K rate if he does get opportunity. I guess what did he pitch last year? He pitched 124 innings. So he should be in line for 150 this year. Just it'll depend on if that comes at the majors, if that comes as a starter. But yeah, that's another name there that has an ADP that got added. After that, you got a couple of names on here on this list here, Billy, that you found that have ADPs. I will admit I don't have any idea who Chase the Lauder is or what he's about, but somebody has sprinkled him in there.
Somebody that probably, I would assume, reads Tuma or is just like a huge draft nerd. CDL, aka he's a for my money, dude. He's the real deal. So it's just a matter of like what his playing time looks like for Cleveland this year. But maybe it isn't this year, but he projects to be a really solid major leaguer. Just by looking at like Steamer and Oopsie here, they've got him as an above average bat right now. But Cleveland is so like finicky with playing time that it is kind of hard to project this guy playing time wise. But as far as skill set goes, he's the real deal. Playing time will be a question mark. So,
yeah, if you haven't been paying attention, the Oopsie projections have been added, which we can quibble on the name, but is a new projection system by Jordan Rosenblum based on work that he did for Eno Saris in using Stuff Plus to project pitchers, and then some of his I think dipping into the Bat X sort of school of really using the Statcast numbers for hitters, and maybe by the look of him, the projection here, I think he's probably using the rookie, some of the similar rookie early on projections type stuff as the bat too. I guess just in general for me, like a brand new projection system is going to be hard for me to really know what to expect out of it. We talked about projection systems a little bit last year when we talked to Derek Hardy, and a lot of knowing the projection is knowing kind of what goes into it and some of the ideas of the person doing that system, and then but I mean, if Jordan comes out with like a article like here's all my back testing I did also on previous seasons and stuff, maybe put a little more faith into it, but just generally not to say that I'm trying to denigrate him. I'm just saying you just be a little bit cautious using a brand new system.
Well, that's the case with projections in general. Don't just take projections, throw them in a spreadsheet, have rankings. That's not going to work. It's probably less not advised. But the way I see it is like directionally, are you is if multiple projection systems are all saying one player is a great value comparatively to the rest of the market, I'm really in on that. If there's a couple projection systems that are just one player's up, one player's down, I'm going to have to investigate more and take that and see what's going on there. So I think that's how I leverage them rather than just being directly turning them into ranks.
Yeah, great point. So yeah, that is kind of the run through of these new contests. You should let us know in the comments if there's somebody that doesn't have AEP. Maybe you don't want to give them up, but who's that new rookie or prospect that you think is going to get maybe some run, even maybe it's in the playoffs. But let us know what you think about that. I already said it earlier. Next week we should be able to dig into the stacking data from the 2024 Dinger. So I know I'm looking forward to that, because that's, as someone who continually somehow is making bigger and bigger stacks this year, I want to make sure that I'm not completely off on just the 2023 data that we had.
Yeah, next week's going to be fun. It's charts and graphs. That's a world that I love to live in. So I'm gonna have a blast talking about that with Chris.
All right. I guess I did say that we were going to get to maybe some thoughts about early drafting versus late drafting, but we are out of time, so that'll get pushed off or maybe forgotten at this point. So that is our episode today. Nez, it's excellent to have you back out of the football and baseball world, or basketball world.
I'm happy to be out of it.
And
I'm happy to be. I miss baseball so much.
Yeah. And Billy, it's excellent to have you as always. I have just decided that we will implement a 3-strike penalty, or a 3-strike system on mentioning that thing that we're not supposed to mention. So you have one more strike before you're kicked off the show.
Chief, I'm going to keep pushing the limits of this rule. It's just to push your button. So this is more like I'm just going to keep forgetting, but that's okay.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So for Billy and Nez and myself, get out there and enjoy these contests.